Budget cannibalization. It's a big word, it's a big term, it's a made up term. I make terms up all the time. It helps me try to explain to our clients and consulting clients what things are happening inside their campaigns. And very simple and straightforward, budget cannibalization is an effect that we see when a Google Ads campaign might be going well, and everybody's under the belief, there's a lot of people under the belief that you can just set it and let it run. Oh my God, this is great. Don't touch it. All of a sudden their spend goes to the roof, their leads go to, through the floor. The entire campaign's tanking and they can't figure out why. Most times they're going to go and blame somebody that set it up the wrong way when it worked for 3 months and then all of a sudden it didn't. What happens is you've got budget cannibalization. Again, big word, hard to say sometimes if you say it fast. But what it means is there's a keyword in one of your ad groups that all of a sudden Google has found a relevancy on their side. They're under the impression that this is a really good keyword to push a ton of traffic through. And it's usually, it's a phrase match. It can even be exact these days. And God forbid, I hope it's not a full-on broad match that you just threw in there and said, yeah, this is close enough, where it might not have any relevancy to anything. So a good term that we don't use inside the real estate industry is property for sale. Property for sale, private property for sale. Like there's just a ton of traffic that might come through via property for sale. And we saw it with a consulting client the other day where they had a bunch of clicks all of a sudden in the last 2 or 3 weeks. We're not in that account every day or every week per se. So when we started doing some investigation, the term property for sale in a couple of their campaigns had sucked through a ton of traffic, had resulted in really, really poor conversions, if there were some, and really bad search terms. And what it effectively it's doing is it's Google saying, well, the bid on this was high enough that we liked it. There was not a lot of people bidding on the actual search term, and their budget was pretty much really high, where they were stuffing the heck out of that thing and saying, well, if your budget's all the way up there, let's just run traffic through there. This is exactly what we want. And I always tell the clients when we see this happen and we see it, just sort of cannibalize the budget and take over it, an ad group or a campaign entirely, we can, we sort of say, well, we need to keep an eye on that. That's something that will come up, and it will come up randomly, but it's cannibalizing everything. It's eating everybody else's resources around it. And that's not something that you want to happen. So how do you limit that is you do your search term and your keyword audits weekly. That's why we tell everybody it needs to be done weekly. That's why we do it in the office weekly. The other way you can do a budget cannibalization is if you're doing a shared budget, and this is completely separate from the keyword cannibalization. So you've got keyword level cannibalization, and you have ad campaign cannibalization. And what I mean by that is if you're doing a shared budget, which Google allows you to say, hey, we've got $1,000 a month we want to spend. So we put in $33.33 a day. It's kind of the number that we use. If you want to do real math, it's a little bit different because you need to do adjustments, whatever. But when we go and do that, and then all of a sudden when you're seeing it, you're spending $25 a day on one campaign, and the other two are getting the rest of the $8 or so. Because this one campaign's spending all that money. Again, what Google's seeing is there's opportunity to dump a ton of traffic into something that's a little bit more popular and push that money accordingly. So it's something that you have to manage on the fly. It's something that will adjust. You might have one month that a certain campaign just goes wild and takes a ton of traffic. And then let's say you try to curtail that and find a way to limit it. Then all of a sudden you've got another campaign that takes off. So when people ask, what are you doing month over month managing or week to week? It's that. It's managing that cannibalization that Google's systems will tend to do. It's a live auction. It's always running, right? And it always updates and restarts at midnight. So it doesn't really care what it did the night before or the day before. It's going to go after stuff. But we'll remember like, hey, this one's an easy one. We can spend a lot of money on this term, and the client said it's okay to do it, so go wild. So when you're looking at whether doing it yourself or whether having somebody manage your stuff, when you tend to see that creeping in, that cannibalization creeping in, like make sure that you're asking those questions. Do we have a single keyword that's going crazy? Is there a campaign that's pulling more traffic than it should? And if that's the case, the easiest way is to put them on all their separate campaigns on their separate budgets, allot them accordingly, and then just go your way. It's not always that simple. Every single different client has a different philosophy or a different way of doing it. You have to look at what's best for you, but make sure you understand what budget cannibalization is when it comes, because it will happen to every campaign out there, and it'll happen, more times than not. So just a little bit of food for thought. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, let me know.